and Heidi Martin on the line. Heidi, welcome to WPFW with Thursday Late Night Jazz with Rusty Hassan. Here you are.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really my pleasure, and it's very special because just early days before I really had had started out on getting gigs. I was waitressing at One Step Down to be able to get an education and hear the music, and that's where we met.
Absolutely, boy, that was a while ago. Boy, the One Step Down, that was a marvelous club, marvelous. Yeah. Boy, so that's indicative of you're being part of the Washington community. Tell us a bit about you growing up and how you got into music and what drew you to singing and then composing your own music.
Well, I think, I guess because of the limit of time, I'll just keep it that I had some experiences early on. I'm an only child, and I listened a lot to Irish and Polish records.
Oh, really? Okay.
Some 78s in my early childhood, and then and my mom played some bossa nova, but I didn't really hear any live music until I was probably 11 years old, 11 or 12, and that was a major shift in my life. I started taking piano lessons, and then I started learning the repertoire of a folk group that when my mom and I moved to Kettering, Maryland, when my parents were divorced, we moved there, and I started singing folk music. So I went from singing a lot to records and learning a lot, and then actually the total different experience of singing live and having that. Just especially in folk music, there's a lot of harmony, so it wasn't an established group per se. So we would change different parts. We would find our parts, and so that was a really good experience to a certain level. And then in high school, I was in musicals, and I was at Gonzaga, and I did a lot of the plays there. But it wasn't until I was at Newsroom Cafe that I heard Reuben Brown on piano. It was Marshall Keyes' performance, and Steve Williams was on drums. Can you imagine? These are the first musicians that I heard, and so I had never heard the music before then, really. I had never heard of anything with extended harmony, and I had never heard something so expanded and vast that not only was I hearing a sort of an expanded experience of emotions from the musicians, but it had such a powerful effect on me that I didn't have anything in front of me but where are you all playing next? And I know it sounds crazy, but that's really what was going on. I was 22, and I was going to Moore's Love and Peace and Twins on Longfellow and One Step Down, and then there was a brief little period where I had gone to a Finnair sponsored like cookout type of thing, and I won the round trip ticket. And then I went to Finland. I decided, well, I'm not really doing anything. Let me go over there and check it out. And I went over there, and I met, I don't know if you're familiar with, probably, but Jarmo Savolainen and Seppo Kantonen and Heikki Sandrén, Haka Virtanen. And so I met these musicians that were, Jarmo had actually gone to Berkeley in the 80s. And when I got there, of course, the big thing was get to Pori Jazz Festival. So I get to Pori Jazz Fest, and the girl that I'm rooming with, she meets Miles Davis. Reached out to her and offers to take us to Germany. So we went. So I went within like an 8-month period of just hearing the music for the first time, and then just being wide open and going with the flow and following the tunes, and I was kind of going all over the place. And then I came back and decided it was Reuben Brown who told me to go to UDC. Actually.
Okay, sure. Yeah. The great music program that I've been teaching jazz history at, and Calvin Jones, I guess, was the director of the program when you were there. And who were some of the other students that you met along the way? Who were the folks that you encountered while you were there?
Well, I was there when Mark was leaving.
Okay.
He came to tell Calvin, Professor Jones, that he had gotten picked up with Betty, and he was going to be working with Betty Carter.
Mark Carey with Betty Carter, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and Bruce Williams I was there, I think, for his last semester. Okay. And he was transferring to Patterson. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was, I guess he had just met Lenora. Yeah, and then they moved up there, and he's had a very successful career.
He comes back quite frequently, though, to perform at UDC. I love him. He really has been a real supporter of the program there. It's been really important. Was Alan Johnson there when you were a student?
I remember when Alan walked in. Okay, he was wearing a matching sweatsuit, and he came in. He was waiting. He was waiting in the theater, and he was just sitting at the piano, sort of noodling around, waiting to meet with Professor Jones and to see if he could be a part of the program.
Fantastic. Well, that was an incredible Meet the Artist program that he had with you a couple of weeks ago. That was really great. The combination of the singing, the music, and the telling your story, which was really something, and we're only touching the highlights of your story tonight. But you did this, you got into Abby Lincoln, and I remember you performing her music at the Bohemian Caverns. You were really delving into to her life, her career, her music. How did that happen? What prompted you to do that?
Well, I mean, I'm completely driven by healing. I think I don't know. I came in with challenging things, and I really do go toward what is. I think it's what makes it a little bit challenging for me to get the business side of it strong because healing takes time. You can't just force it or even put it on your own time frame, on your own schedules, on your own timeline. So for me, to really transform some things emotionally, I had to take my time with it. So Abby, I mean, she has always been my favorite singer. And before I was really aware of her entire catalog, her entire catalog was, I started listening in the 80s, so her entire catalog wasn't out, it was more like the early stuff. But I listened a lot to Cassandra Wilson, who I would say is a disciple of Abby. Mm-hmm. So it came slow. It came like walking into the ocean. It came initially where it was just, I'm drawn to the beauty. I'm enjoying this. I'm loving this music. It's enveloping me. And I started to go and hear her whenever she was in D.C. and then at Blues Alley or Blue Note, Lincoln, was it Lincoln Center that I heard? And then after that, it was this was the first time that it became social for me. I was at UDC, and folks were saying, look, we're going down to, I think it was the natural history. Was that when she did the lecture? And it was surrounding, the topic was, are they going to have Duke Ellington's music in the Smithsonian? It was like they were trying to get his whole collection.
Okay, sure.
To speak about it. Do you remember that? And it was funny because when I got there, I sat down and within minutes I realized I'm sitting next to Andrew White.
Okay, sure. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I initially it was just pure love. I love her. I love her poetry. I love her voice. I love the emotion. I love the phrasing. And so that's what pulled me in. But then I got aware that she's written these pieces for certain reasons. I started looking into her life. I started listening to her online, I guess, in the around 2010, 2012, 2014. And that's what happened was I started to just transcribe some of the interviews because I wanted to. Sometimes I feel like if you recite something, it really becomes you. It becomes
sure.
You know what I mean? So it was like I started to transcribe things that she would talk about Billie Holiday, and she would talk about Max, and she would talk about her childhood and her father, and it just was something that I noticed that I was accidentally memorizing.
Wow.
I was sort of drawn to it so much, and so that's when I knew, wow, I'm getting, this is kind of getting bigger. And I had already started to perform some of her songs as a part of my own set. I did Throw It Away and Holy Earth and Bird Alone. I mean, I love that song, so that's what started it. But then when I decided I would do a one-woman show and have the band playing with me, the first time I did that, it was actually Chris Funn. I think Todd Salmon played piano, and Josh Evans came down and played trumpet. Kush played drums. And so it just kind of came up, it was just sort of rising out of the work that I had done. And then I didn't have a vision. I was still, as I usually do, follow what is transforming me or healing me, or what I'm focused on, what I'm drawn to. And then I just kind of sit with the work, and some art comes out of it. And so that's when I said, okay, I'm going to rent the Source Theater for 2 nights, and I put on a show, and that's when it really started taking hold. And then I reached out to Michael Bowie, and I said, I know you were her musical director. I mean, I knew Michael, but I hadn't really worked with him.
Okay.
And so that's how that came to be, where it was actually, that's when Dr. Auckland Lynch came out and wanted to talk to me afterwards, and it was a really meaningful. And I recited things that she talked about how, she would say Roach saved my life, and how, and so it just put me on the pathway. I just have never really, I think I'm a seeker, and if something's itching at me, I can't let go of it.
Now, with all of the performances that you saw her at, did you ever get an opportunity to really talk with her?
Yes. Oh,
good.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I was definitely in the queue for Green Room.
Good. Okay. Fantastic. Wow.
Aaron Walker actually said, if you want to speak with her, I will ask her if I can give you her number. And he did, and I talked to her, and one night I spent like 2 hours. It was, really going in about a lot of different stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It was good.
I had talked to her a number of times, but it was Michael Bowie. He had her doing a fundraising concert at UDC, and he asked me to be the MC, and I had a long conversation with her in the green room prior to the performance. It was really marvelous. It's something I'll always treasure. So tell us about now. This is all your own material, Attunement. Where'd you get the title from for the album, Attunement?
Well, so when I heard that there was an Abbey Lincoln Estate, and it was right here on the East Coast, the Mid-Atlantic region at Rutgers University, I applied for a fellowship. I applied first for an arts and humanities grant, and I got that, and I was able to drive up and back, stay at a hotel, and do a couple days at a time, just, spending like 3 or 4 days out of the week up there doing, really, my focus was her journaling.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to understand, and I think probably it's probably the balancing that she did to finally get to a grounded lady, a grounded feminine spirit that is her own authority of her life. And I think that is what is the most compelling thing. Ultimately, that's where I have some, growing to still do, but I'm getting closer in. And through reading her journals and understanding her life and understanding what she dealt with, the anxiety, the depression, the being blackballed, the in the music industry, how she did not, she herself did not want to have the fame and fortune and the glamour. She wanted the truth, and so she went for it and really paid the price. And so when I did that, I suddenly thought that I would just write poetry. I was like, let me just write a little. Let me write about the experience.
Okay.
And what happened was I started to write. I reached out to Michael. I was like, Michael, what was going on? This is where she was, on tour. What was going on this year? And so he would kind of talk to me about different things. And then I got the courage to ask Mark Carey, and I was like, Mark, and he shared, and it's really interesting because it's like, different family members. I mean, basically, musicians in a band, they have all different types of experiences and relationships with the leader. It's not just one aspect. So it was really an interesting puzzle to put together of the images and the ways in which she interacted with each of them very differently. And so then, so they were really generous, and then it got to be like, oh my God, I'm going to write this second grant to actually write music, and I got approved for it, and I wrote 7 songs. I wrote a few more, but 7 was the one we chose, and then I put another one in that I thought was fitting, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. But and then I asked them. I said, would you please go into the studio and document this experience? And they were like, yes. And it was beautiful because I had a family tragedy in May of 2024, and Michael just dedicated so much time, coming over, playing the songs together, talking about them. And I have never collaborated with anyone. It's so personal to compose, but he would come over and he'd say, and he talked about things in music that I needed to learn. And I really, he contributed, many of the pieces where he contributed some composing was within the bridge. Mm-hmm. Not so much the song that you just played, although he did some things there in the bridge, but more so Being Lifted. He did some considerable contribution composing, but he also, so we co-produced it, and honestly, I'm probably guilty of, I just didn't want to let go and say, okay, he produced it.
Okay.
Because you're an artist.
Right. Now you have a special...
You hold on to something.
You have a special event in regard to this new recording to be released. Tell us about what's happening next week.
Well, I am going to be performing at Keystone Corner. I'm really excited about it. It's November 19th on a Wednesday. It's a one set. It's my first time performing in Baltimore in a long time. And it's my first time performing at Keystone. And Keystone, it's interesting. It resonates, Abby and Max. I think there's a recording of them singing. She's singing Africa. There's like a recording live at Keystone.
The California Keystone Corner that Todd Barkin had back in the late 70s and early 80s was just an incredible performance space for all of these artists, and Abby Lincoln certainly performed and recorded there. Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us about how people can get a hold of Attunement and how they can catch up with you at Keystone.
Well, sure. It's Attunement is right now is in hard copy or it's on Bandcamp. I will have CDs at Keystone Corner on Wednesday, November 19th. And I should say Michael Bowie is playing. He's the musical director for that. And everybody that's on the album, except for Aleko, is actually going to be playing piano with us. But Michael Bowie, Eric Kennedy on drums, just beauty. Ethan Bailey Gould, I really like his sound. He's playing guitar, and Elijah Easton is playing tenor. So they're all going to be there, and they're all on the album. And I guess HeidiMartin.com, really. So you can email me at HeidiMartin.com.
Okay, great. Well, it's been really marvelous talking with you tonight, Heidi, and I'm glad to talk with you at our house. Fantastic. So we're going to hear Being Lifted from Attunement. Heidi Martin, thanks again for calling in. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Rusty.